to Hawaii. Welcome, everyone. It's really great to see everybody here. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started as we have a very exciting and full agenda for you all today. My name is Alan Smith. I am an organizer for Consumer Reports, and I'm happy to welcome you all to our Security Planner webinar. Today, we're going to be showing you how you can use this cool tool that we've built to design a customized plan of action to keep you safe online. We're excited to be having this conversation in conjunction with our friends from Common Sense Media. And we're going to be telling you a little bit about who they are and why they're awesome in just a second. Welcome any Common Sensors to the call. On today's webinar, we're going to tell you about this security planner tool. We're going to run you through a couple of quick case studies that demonstrate how it works and hopefully keep a lot of time for your questions. We'll try to get you out of here by the top of the hour. And hopefully we will have, like I said, lots of time for your questions. Please do use the Q&A function as a part of the what you see on your screen to log those questions for you today. We have an awesome cast of folks here to chat with you today, and I'm going to start off by introducing Kelly Mendoza, who is the Vice President of Education Programs from Common Sense Media. Kelly's going to say a few words about Common Sense and why we're collaborating today. So welcome to the call, Kelly.
Thanks so much, Alan. It's great to be here. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We are very excited to partner with Consumer Reports on this event. I just want to tell you a little bit about Common Sense and what we do around cybersecurity. So Common Sense Media is a nonprofit organization that gives kids and families and schools the tools to make informed choices about media and technology. And families know us for our independent, age-based reviews of movies, TV shows, books, games, and apps. Many parents out there might be familiar with us for that. But we also offer education programs with a free digital citizenship curriculum for schools and EdTech reviews to help teachers plan their lessons and integrate technology into their teaching. So at a core, we are a children's advocacy group, and we draw on research, industry and expertise, and community partnerships to advocate for laws and policies at the state and federal level to help kids thrive in the digital world. And so one of the issues that we focus on is cybersecurity. And when you hear that word cybersecurity, it might be hard to relate to it or even fully understand what does that mean exactly. But it's really all about protecting your smartphones, protecting your computers and your devices, and also your personal data and your information online. And so earlier this year, we asked our community at Common Sense what concerns they have around protecting their personal information and their devices. And a lot of folks asked about, best practices for creating strong passwords, but then others voiced that they are looking for information to help prevent identity theft and protect their financial information online. And so that's why we're excited to work with Consumer Reports and their Security Planner tool, which gives guidance on all of these topics. If you want to go to the next slide, Alan. So on a personal level, I think we're one more back. Sorry, thank you. I'm a parent of a 12-year-old daughter, and I'm often thinking about, how best to protect her privacy online and our family's privacy. And we hear this concern from many parents and educators. So that's why we created this hub on our website to give parents and educators resources to protect kids' privacy and security. And we will share that link in the chat. It's at commonsense.org/cybersecurity. And now we're ready for the next slide. We also provide free lessons for schools, and that's my work. I work with K-12 schools to help teach students on how to protect their privacy online. So the hub includes other resources that we love, including the security planner that you will see today. So before I hand it back to Alan, I just want to give a thanks to Craig Newmark and Craig Newmark Philanthropies for making our work possible and for also making this event possible today. And thanks again for joining us. We'll go back to Alan.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. We're also joined today by Justin Brookman, who is the Director of Technology Policy for us over on Consumer Reports. He spearheads all of our tech policy work, and he's going to say a few words in introduction as well. Justin.
Hey, thank you, Alan. Yeah, just a couple words. First, want to echo Kelly. Thanks so much to Craig Newmark for the support for this event, for Consumer Reports, and also more broadly for his work on cybersecurity and cyber civil defense. It's such an essential issue for consumers in the modern age. So it's incredibly exciting to see so many people coming to this event. That's really cool. I think we as a society are behind, candidly, but I think we're making progress, and like that is really heartwarming to see so many folks who are engaged on this. Just a couple of words about Consumer Reports. I had our work on policy advocacy around tech policy. So we do a lot of advocacy on privacy issues, on big social media platforms, on competition, on cybersecurity, rights to repair, access to broadband. And we do all that through lobbying, but also in partnership with other folks at Consumer Reports, like our testers who test products, including testing products on privacy and security these days. Like the community engagement team with like Alan, like all the great journalists we have at Consumer Reports who work on explaining how to use products to folks. The folks in our innovation lab who build products like Permission Slip to help people control their personal information, who build the security planner as well. And also partnering with great folks like Common Sense. We do a lot of work with Common Sense at state level, like in California, the federal level, and other policy stuff too. So I'm happy to talk more about Consumer Reports policy and other stuff going on. But other than that, let's go ahead and get to the content of this webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Justin's going to be sticking around as will Kelly, and so you might see him popping up in Q&A in the chat. I have a few more folks, distinguished guests to introduce you to. Last but certainly not least is Yael Grauer, who is, among other things, the person who actually built and maintains the security planner tool that we're going to be talking about today. Yael, do you want to come on and say hi and tell us what you do at CR?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Yael, and yes, I maintain Security Planner, and I'm a program manager here at Consumer Reports in the Innovation Lab. And I've been working directly on Security Planner for over 3 years, and I am calling in from Phoenix.
Awesome. And we also were going to have a few other folks, Sam Stuber, who is a project manager at the Innovation Lab here at CR, and Liz Foley, who's a senior director at Common Sense Media. They're mostly going to be popping up in chat, but if you see their names in there, that's who they are as well. So we're almost to the actual meat of why we're all here to talk, but I have a few pieces of housekeeping to get to first. Some things to note. This is just going to be an overview. The Security Planner tool is very complicated and very deep and has lots of different things that it can do. And as Justin mentioned, there are a world of potential issues and concerns when it comes to keeping ourselves safe online. This will be an overview, hopefully a guiding tool to help you figure out what's next for you personally. It's also just something to look out for is my WAFAT acronym, which is the acronym Watch Out for Acronyms and Terms. Yael, Justin are very subject matter proficient folks, but sometimes that means they can run through quick stuff really quickly, and they can forget, and they can shorthand things. So if you hear an acronym or a word or a phrase or an idea you don't recognize, just flag it for us in chat or in Q&A, and we'll try to double back and make sure that we check in with what that means. We are recording this, which means a couple of things. We're going to be able to share back with you the entire video of everything that we record today. So you don't need to worry too much if you miss something. You can always go back and watch again later. Also, with that recording, we will send around all of the links and ideas that you're going to be seeing in chat. So if something goes by too quickly, don't fret. It will also come into your inbox as a one giant email soon. Please engage with us. We're going to have a couple of different ways to do that. There's going to be the chat function, which many of you are already using. There's going to be a Q&A function, which you should use to log questions for when we get to the question answering portion of this webinar. And then finally, there's going to be a couple of times when a poll pops up on your screen. We're going to just be trying to ask you a few poll questions to try to keep things engaging. And don't worry, they're thoroughly unscientific, and you will not be judged upon your answers. They're just ways to keep involved with what we're doing. Finally, last but certainly not least, please do be respectful. We have some rules of the road here for our webinars that we just like to make sure we get out of the way. Now, this is not going to be a problem for any of us, but please do assume best intentions of all participants, volunteers, speakers, and CR staff, and Common Sense Media staff. Please be mindful and understanding of fellow participants who are coming from different experiences. Please only speak to your own perspectives and stories, and please refrain from personal attacks or comments on appearance, voices, etc. Focus on topics under discussion. By attending this webinar, you are agreeing to these basic ground rules. This means that if you don't adhere to these rules, we do have permission to remove you from the discussion. That's not going to happen today, but we like to get that out of the way first in case we have to remove anybody. Okay, that's the housekeeping. Let's jump in. Why we're here today. Yael, tell us about this cool tool.
I'm so excited to tell everybody about Security Planner because it can give you customized solutions for protecting yourself online. And not just yourself, but also your family members, your students, or other people in your life. And you don't need to be a Consumer Reports member to use Security Planner. And you don't even have to input data that identifies you. So it's a free, easy to use tool for everybody. And so we're here today to help you figure out ways to use this tool. And your needs and how you use the internet might change. So you can actually keep going back to Security Planner. We do add to it continuously. I just got a new laptop and I immediately went to Security Planner to figure out like what steps I needed to take that I'd already set on an old laptop that I haven't done. So that's something that we encourage people to do. And what I'm really excited about with Security Planner is that we update it really often. So we have information on baby monitors. We have a page on online harassment that we're constantly adding resources to. We have sections on securing your financial data and much more. And the way Security Planner works is it asks you a few simple questions and gives you a set of personalized online safety recommendations based on your responses. And it's confidential. You don't have to share your information with us. You can share your email with us if you want to save your plan, but we won't use it to access any of your online accounts. And also, we don't run third-party ads, and no company will ever influence our recommendations of products or services.
Let's take a look at what the Security Planner actually would look like.
Right, so there's 3 questions, and based on the way you answer it, it gives you a personalized action plan with recommendations that are prioritized for you. And the first question it asks you is what devices you're using most often when you access the internet. And again, that might be something that changes over time. So you can always come back and update these if you add a new baby monitor to your house, or maybe you decide you do need that smart speaker after all. And then the next thing it'll ask you is what you want to do. So maybe you're worried about identity theft and want to protect your identity, or maybe you need to lock down your social media accounts. So you just check off what applies to you. And then lastly, it asks you if there's anything you want us to be aware of that's going on right now. Like maybe you've just been hacked or dealing with something urgent at this moment. So you will check that off. And when you get done, you'll see a list of security tips to work through. And as you're going through the plan, you might see things that don't apply to you, but maybe they apply to somebody you know, or your children, or other people in your life. And so it's also possible that some of them will expose some different parts of the digital privacy world to you that you weren't even aware of or didn't know about. So we are going to spend some time today going through case studies, and I will turn it back to Alan to tell you about that.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to structure the rest of this webinar essentially around 3 case studies that walk you through the different scenarios that are based on different problems that we hear people talking about a lot. And I think that the reason, well, there are a couple of reasons we've done this. One is because essentially what we want you to do is use this tool, and just a webinar where we just say use the tool and then leave, not so interesting, not so engaging. So some of the case studies that we have here are based off real issues we've heard people have. And don't worry, we've changed all the names and issues to protect the privacy. And I think it's important to go through case studies of folks who are maybe not exactly like you to, as Yael was just saying, show and kind of highlight the different problems different people may be struggling with online. Whether or not you relate to the case studies, it's always good to be aware of the common security issues. And with the kind of dominance of different technology, someone you may know has already been scammed online, had identity theft issues, been harassed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's good to keep those people front and in our minds as we think about sort of the different ways that we can be working, not just to keep ourselves safe, but for something closer to herd immunity, if you will, to making sure that everybody is able to stay safe online. So let's meet our first case study. Her name is Brianna Lee. Brianna is a local activist in Wisconsin who spends her time advocating for improved renewable energy adoption. With renewable energy becoming more popular, Brianna has noticed that more people have begun following on her social media accounts. But unfortunately, recently she's been receiving a lot of more unpleasant messages from some of her followers. They have at times threatened to share her personal information with the world, like where she lives. She notices the comments are starting to affect her mental health and are starting to prevent her from focusing on her work. She's spending too much time focused on those things and not enough time on her own mental and physical well-being. So let's go ahead and try to utilize this tool from the perspective of Brianna. And I'm going to start with, let's assume you don't know this about Brianna, so I'm just going to fill in the early returns here. So let's assume that she is she's an Apple user. So we're going to click on iPhone or iPad and a Mac computer. And let's see what else you might assume about her based on what we just said. So we might assume that we want to, she wants help locking down her social media profile. She might want help keeping online accounts safe. She might want to protect herself from online harassment and stalking. And then when we go over to the different things that she might want to learn, I'm concerned about online harassment and stalking is a question that Security Planner really is interested in helping you think through. So then she will complete this activity and boom, her action plan immediately. And we are actually going to drop the action plan, her action plan. And again, this tool will create a specific action plan for you, but we'll drop her action plan into the chat now. Thank you, Sam. And here are the sort of things that we suggest, that the Security Planner suggests for Brianna to tackle. A thing that I really like about what Security Planner does is it immediately identifies a top priority. And get help responding to online harassment. There's a little option right there. But I'm going to stop my run through here and just source the crowd a little bit. What do you all think Brianna should be working on here? And how would you, before using the Security Planner tool, have thought about this question? And I would just kind of be curious about where you all would think that she gets started. And also, I think let's imagine a little bit about Brianna's experience here. What should she be thinking about in terms of her real life? Nancy is saying harassment in the chat. Thank you, Nancy. I wonder what would you consider for the kind of different events? Like, what would have been a triggering thing that you could be on the lookout for? What would let's see what else people are saying. Interesting. Yeah, limit the amount of time spending on social media, don't respond, block people harassing, delete personal info if possible. This is great. Someone is suggesting making sure that her personal information, such as address and phone number, set as private only for her. Good stuff. Eliminate social media. This is interesting. And Yael, I would wonder if you want to weigh in on any of these things here, but you know, what, like Chris is suggesting kind of a documentation trail.
Yeah, I think documentation is a really good idea. And also some of the information about locking down her social media accounts. Maybe some information she only wants going to people that she knows. Or eliminating ones that aren't essential. So that's kind of a personal decision, but definitely sometimes people post a lot of information online before they get attention and don't realize that it's still there. Like their needs kind of change over time. And then there's some information about deleting personal information online that I also think is really good advice for sure.
There's a couple of interesting things about I'm seeing turn off location trackers, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can limit kind of the amount that our devices are set to automatically share with the world. And on your screen right now, part of Brianna's 12 tips here, including stop stalkerware. Yael, can you tell us a little bit about what that, if we were to click and open that up, what is stalkerware and why is that like a thing that we would be worried about here?
Sometimes people are worried that they might have stalkerware on their devices that's tracking their communications and location. But if you actually click open that page, it actually starts you out with what it's more likely to be, which is that you're sharing information with somebody who might be sharing it with a harasser, or you're posting it online. And so it'll take you through steps that'll help you kind of hone in on what the issue is. And then if it's not resolved, then you can actually see if you have stalkerware on your devices. It's kind of more of an issue for people who are dealing with domestic violence situations, but it's definitely included on there if people are worried about stalking and harassment, especially if it escalates.
This is one of the things, one of the many things that I like about Security Planner, and one of the things I like about working at Consumer Reports in general is there's a lot of sort of dystopia assumptions that I often have about technology, like, is my cell phone listening to me, or is there something on my device that's actively stalking me? And so often the answer is, no, actually, I've just made a choice, or I've just clicked on a thing, or opened myself up to sharing information with the world. And I like the sort of like the ways that this tool punches through those assumptions and actually helps me like get to some concrete answers. Is there anything else you want to pull out of this here, Yael, or should we move on to our first poll of the day?
I think like some of the things is like, was there a trigger for these events? Was there something that maybe her name was listed somewhere? And also every once in a while you can actually report people through the processes like social media. Sometimes they respond to those takedown complaints. But yeah, I like the advice that was given in the chat about reviewing settings and follower restrictions on social media. And also looking for resources for online harassment, which we have a page on. Every once in a while, you might even need to report this to your employer. So they'll be on the lookout if somebody is like asking for information about you, or maybe even shows up to your workplace. So there's a lot to consider here.
I'm gonna just jump into one question in the Q&A just to reiterate a couple of things. One, this is very much available to anybody, not just CR members. It is open on the internet, and we would love you to use it. And generally, the securityplanner.consumerreports.org is how you would do that. And then secondly, I'll just reiterate that while there are lots of chats and things that are going by, and we are trying to get to as many questions as we can over the course of this hour, we will also be packaging all of this up for you in an email for later. All right. So, oh, I should have been parked here for this discussion. Sorry, bad slide management there. But let's move on to our first poll question of the day. So you should see a poll popping up on your screen right now. So what does the word doxing mean? Are you familiar with this term, with this phrase? Is doxing the digital tax to mental health that comes from reading Facebook comments all day long, or X comments or Instagram comments, or fill in your question there. Is it the practice of changing all your passwords once a month or more? Is it the web-based practice of researching and publicly broadcasting private or identifying information about an individual or organization? Pop your answers in here. Once again, don't worry too much about whether or not you know the answer, or even if you do not see a poll on your screen right now. This is thoroughly unscientific, but it's just interesting to know how much folks are familiar with these kinds of terminology like doxing. So let's see here. We've got most of the people who are responding. Yeah, feel free to jump into chat too if you're not seeing a poll thing pop up.
So we're about split between people who are not sure and people who are saying doxing is the web-based practice of researching and publicly broadcasting private or identifying information about a person or an organization.
And without too much further ado, I think, Sam, we can end this poll and share back the results. The slight plurality of you had it correct. The web-based practice of researching and publicly broadcasting private or identifying information about an individual or organization. Yeah. What do people need to know about what to do when being doxxed?
Yeah, this is like a really scary thing that people are worried about. And there are actually sites where you can check to see what information of yours is online and try to remove it. And the best time to do that is before it happens. Okay, I'm laughing because somebody in the chat said doxing is not related to dachshunds. I actually have a Chiweenie, so that's hilarious, but I'm gonna focus. Yeah, the best time to kind of remove your information online as much as you can is before it actually shows up. But you can actually, if it's on a search engine, you can get it removed from search usually. And I will try to find the links to be able to do that. It's not always possible to remove your information from everywhere that it exists, but you can make it more difficult for people to find it. Unfortunately, if you own a home or vote in certain states, your information can still be found online, but it's harder to get it. And so like we take people through the process of trying to remove that information.
And then there are definitely times when one of the sort of like core problems is one person actively posting your information in a way, like in the Brianna case before, designed to target harassment towards that person. And in those cases, as folks were saying in the chat, that is a moment when perhaps some sort of documentation and maybe even trying to get that particular post or that particular moment taken down can be useful.
Yeah, I just posted a link in the chat too about how you can remove your information from Google search and Bing. And Google also lets you remove content if it's really exploitative in like certain categories of information. So that can be good to do.
I can just add that, one of the things we work on the policy side is legal rights. And so there actually is a legal right to delete your data in about 5 states now and about 10 more that's about to come online. So that gives you some rights to take down stuff. Usually it's about stuff you've given them yourself. So you have an account from someone, you can delete your account. It's trickier when someone posts information about you, because in some ways that's their information. But a lot of sites will offer services to deal with it. They're often not as responsive as they could be. But this is something that's changing. I think that 10 years ago in this country, there was no right to delete your information from online. And now we're actually seeing some progress in that area.
And we would welcome everyone on this call to help us with that fight. As Justin was saying, that right now in the U.S., it's a very state by state situation. So we're gonna we have some resources at CR about states that are doing great work. Looking at you, California, and then some states that are maybe a little bit more behind, or states where there are some questionable bills, et cetera, et cetera. So things to do around this particular case study. Search yourself online. Go ahead and spend that sometimes feeling slightly self-indulgent process of plugging your own name into Google to see what you can find about yourself. Report harassment as soon as it happens through the official, flagging things on your social media platform or other places. Update your settings frequently, and limit what you share online and with whom. And also, as always, get help from experts. Use Security Planner and try to engage with people like Yael who are keeping totally ahead of all the different things that are happening in the world. Let's see. Do we want to take a second to answer any of these excellent questions live? I'm just trying to keep up with one.
Questions.
Yeah, which one are you feeling?
Let's
How
see.
about
Well, first of all,
VPNs?
Yeah.
there's
We're gonna hit VPNs later, so let's hold. We'll hold on that one, Charlie.
there are some people in the chat asking about the links. We will send out an email that has all the links. So if you cannot copy them, then you will we'll get those
You get it
sent
all
to
in an
you.
email. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a question that says that there's websites that can identify public records with a fee. How do you address that? And the way that we address that is by having people opt out of those sites, unfortunately, which is kind of a time-consuming process. But we actually are in the process of doing some research to see which of the paid options are most effective. So look for that for us sometime in the coming year. Hopefully the next 4 or 5 months we'll be releasing information about that. But yeah, we do have resources that will help you opt out of those sites. We actually linked to some of them from Security Planner. And then somebody asked, what about brokers? And I think that's kind of a similar answer. For at least for people search sites that is like one of the forms of data brokers. We also have a tool called Permission Slip, which is really good for getting information from the other kind of brokers, which is like marketing information that is collected about you. And so there's a free app we have called Permission Slip, which we can also link to, that you can use to tell companies not to sell or share your data.
Yeah, I'll say quickly that there actually was a law passed in California this year called the Delete Act, which would let you universally opt out of data brokers, at least in California. It's not in effect yet. It'll go into effect in a couple of years. But again, I think it's indicative of the progress that folks are making. Again, the law is slower than we would like, but it's bending roughly in the right direction.
All right, let's get into Jorge if we can, and then we can go back to questions in a second. Unless you got one you really want to knock out.
I just had real quickly someone ask, can you use Security Planner for keeping yourself secure at work? And absolutely. It's not completely about work, but these are the same kind of tips and tricks that will be used for work. And we also link to other resources. But moving on to Jorge. So Jorge is as part of his retirement, he likes to read the news and look online to find new products to purchase. And one day, a deal site that he regularly uses sends him an email with a flash sale saying he can get 50% off the cost of a gift card, instant savings applied to his next purchase. And the holidays are around the corner, and he decides to buy the gift online. He's really excited to save the money to be able to use it for future gifts. A week later, he goes to the site and gets an error. When he tries to use his gift card, it says that it is not valid during his checkout process. So he realizes the gift card was actually never issued by the deal site. What should he do? So we're not going to take you through his whole plan, but you can imagine what he might click on. But let us know what your ideas are for what you think that he should do before proceeding. Let's see what we have in the chat. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. That's true. Monitor and change his credit card number and check with his credit card company. Yeah, these are good suggestions. Cancel his credit card. Other things that he can do, he can actually freeze his credit card and freeze his credit. Another thing we recommend is changing his passwords. especially if he used his password anywhere on this site, or especially if it's a password that he's used multiple times. And so like one of the recommendations that kind of we keep going back to over and over again in Security Planner is using a password manager and using multi-factor authentication, which is a secondary tool that will make it harder for people to get into your account, even if they do have your password. It can be an app. Sometimes it's a code sent through an email, or you can use an actual physical security key. So those are some of the recommendations we have, but we also have some specific pages. I filled out a plan for him, which we're going to put in the chat. I filled it out as if he did discover he's been a victim of identity theft. And we have a couple of pages, and one of them is on what to do if you are worried about protecting your financial data.
I think that it's interesting that a lot of you all went directly to the place of thinking about how to use financial institutions to protect him, which is great and awesome. But it is also one of these things where if someone has taken, if there is a scam situation happening here, there's a good chance that there is other identity information that is leaking out as a part of that process. So that there's a lot there that we can maybe help Jorge think about. I also want one more other comment here, and I'm fairly confident it was a joke, but someone mentioned don't admit this to his wife. While that is amusing, I also think that there's a kind of a general shame that folks feel about any of these sort of things that happen online. There's a general shame of like, oh man, I got. Someone managed to phish me. Someone managed to get my information. I was a victim of identity theft. All those sorts of terms and ideas often come with a healthy dose of shame. And we are here from Consumer Reports to tell you, you do not need to be ashamed. These are very sophisticated people doing very increasingly sophisticated things across the board to try to find out more information about you personally. And please don't, the hurdle of getting over your own shame about it only stops you from getting help as quickly as you could. So don't need to be ashamed about having any of this happening. The most important thing is to be figuring out what you can do to address it.
There's some comments about disputing the purchase, which absolutely you should do it. I think I was thinking more big picture. And then there's some debate on whether you should cancel your credit card. And to me, that like if you accidentally give away a password or information, like I would kind of seek guidance from that company. But yeah, it's definitely it depends on the actual situation whether you would cancel your credit card or not.
That's a really interesting question from Allison too, kind of on this same note. Yael, how do you encourage an elderly family member perhaps to confess if they've been a victim like Jorge? Like, do you have any ways of sort of talking to people to make them feel more like they can come clean and not feel too embarrassed about this sort of thing?
I mean, I think that people should admit that they've clicked on these because I think almost everybody has. So when I tell people like I do this for a living and I clicked on a phishing link once, it was really convincing. Like I think that makes people feel better because they're kind of embarrassed that you might think they're dumb or something. So if you realize just how often this happens, I think that can be a way to get people to admit it or get help when it happens. So. Yeah.
I think that's a great list of things. This gets us to our second poll of the day. I'm just curious about whether we're talking about how to report different things. A poll should be popping up right now. True or false? Reporting a fake email can help prevent others from being phished. This is a question which at its heart is getting to not just how do we stay safe online ourselves, but how do we build that herd immunity? How do we work together to keep everybody safe? And let's see, I'll give folks a little more time. There is one answer that seems to be coming in pretty hard here. Yeah, we didn't give you a not sure option, Marissa. That's a fair point. Yeah, okay, fair enough. To whom should the fake emails be reported? In this question, we're assuming the sort of like built into your email browser report functionality. So report this to Gmail, report this to Yahoo, the kind of like mark this as spam kind of stuff that you can do within your email browser. Does that help? reporting a fake email can help prevent others from being phished. All right, I'm seeing responses slow, so if you have any other thoughts, just drop them in the chat. But we can go ahead and end poll and share back that 85% of you or so got the right answer. The answer is true. We can, in fact, work together towards herd immunity from phishing. When you report those emails up the chain of command to your associate different email tools, what happens? Yeah.
So actually, if you report it, then the computers learn. It could be reported as phishing. I don't know if you've ever gotten an email that kind of has a warning on it saying like other people have reported this as phishing or as a scam, but it makes other people less likely to click on it. And yeah, so I definitely would do that. And yeah, I think it's like sorry, I'm off script a little. Oh yeah, there's other places you can report it to as well. In addition to the FTC, there's or sorry, in addition to the actual email provider, you can report the incident to the FTC. There's also an anti-phishing working group. And we will link to those in the chat and send it in the follow-up email for people who can't cut and paste it from the chat. So in addition to teaching your internet service provider to identify something as phishing, you can also report it for groups that can post alerts and help users in other ways. Another thing you can do is contact the company it's pretending to be directly, and that can help them alert other users and take actions towards that account.
Nice one, Ruth, who got to that exact thought in the chat as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, somebody posted PayPal wants you to send it to spoof@paypal.com. So yeah, is another thing that you
lots
can
of folks have spoof reporting. That's great. Yeah, so there's sort of 3 branches, which is teach the computer that this one might be something that other folks should look out for, and then going to the community, the company that was purportedly sending you the email to begin with, and then so we're talking a lot about phishing here specifically, but then have one of the there are many other ways that people are sometimes phished, and it sounds like we don't really know exactly how Jorge was caught. Oh, we do know. Sorry, it was an email. But there are sort of like other ways that you can in email look for things that might indicate phishing, and there are a lot of different indicators, things to look out for, things to share with friends and family to look out for as a part of the security planner build. So once again, one of the specific pages, or I think we've already dropped in, and we will send again the information about Jorge's plan, but there's a couple of different how to avoid phishing things as a part of that process as well.
I think we might have a bad link. We'll fix that in the follow-up email. But somebody has a difference between blocking an email address versus reporting something as phishing. So if you report it as phishing, then there's different links depending on your email service provider. And so blocking the email address just stops them from being able to message you, but reporting as phishing, they can actually, your internet service provider can actually, train its model to address it as phishing for other people and maybe look into it. So there is a little bit of information.
Speaking as someone who sent everyone here at least an email reminding you to come to this webinar, we don't mind when people unsubscribe, but it is more difficult when people tell the email provider that we are trying to phish them. So with great power comes with great responsibility. Do actually use the report phishing for when you actually suspect someone is trying to do something illegal, rather than an annoying email that you just wish you weren't getting right now.
Yes. Don't say people are phishing if you just don't like the email.
That's what the unsubscribe link is for. That seems perfectly reasonable. Okay. So we've already gone over a lot of these things, but yeah, alert the company and your bank. These are things that Jorge could have done. We've gotten to a lot of this. Report to the FTC and the anti-phishing working group. Don't forget to carefully review web URLs and email addresses from within your email before you click on anything. If it ends with google.exe, it is not real. It is not actually pointing to where it professes to be pointing to. Change compromised information and passwords if possible, and be more critical about what you see online. Now, that password one it gets me back to a question that we got kind of early on here that I would like to pose to you, Yael. I think it was Mary's question. I keep all my
Yes.
passwords in my head. Ability being is that they all contain the same 4 digits, characters, etc., and paired with the name of the company, org, etc., including one capital letter as part of the name. Nagging question is if I am putting myself at risk in doing this practice, knowing the abilities of cyber tech. And I guess as a part of that question, what else could Mary or any of us be doing?
Yeah, I don't think it's ideal to use the same combination of words, because if you can memorize them, then other people or their computer programs can probably guess them. And like they run through different words. Also, if a single account is compromised, they might try different variations of it with a new account. Like people can figure out those schemes. So we always recommend using a password manager. Another thing you can do is you can use a browser-based password manager. So your browsers will allow you to save that in browser. I don't think it's quite as convenient because there's a lot of, it doesn't always sync, that you have to set up syncing, and there's some privacy issues with some types of syncing where you have to like check off different boxes to make sure that that information isn't used for advertising, specifically in Chrome. I don't think Firefox does that. So there's a few other little issues, but we're actually working on a story about this right now. So yeah, I would definitely recommend, if at all possible, using a password manager, or at least your browser's password manager, rather than reusing different combinations of passwords. Another thing you can do is set up multi-factor authentication, because usually if you are logging in from a new device, it will ask you for that code. So especially if you're not taking my advice and are going to reuse passwords, I would recommend setting up multi-factor authentication, though there's it's not completely foolproof, but it's just kind of an added layer of security.
All right, we are low on time, so let's push on to the very last of our 3 case studies, Maya. Yael,
Okay, so
let's
Maya
tell us about Maya.
Yes, so Maya feels pretty tech savvy. She is always shopping online. She has a lot of smart devices. Um, and she Zooms online with her church group and her children. She doesn't feel like there's anything wrong right now, but she does feel like she's at risk of losing control of her digital self. So I think we know a lot of people like this, who like maybe there isn't anything happening now, but they're worried that it might be in the future. So what do we think Maya should do?
What tools should Maya consider, and how would those different tools possibly help? Use a VPN, someone says. Kent.
Yes, we are going to be talking about VPNs a little bit.
As people are dropping information here, I'm also seeing some discussions about the previous topic about password managers. Good stuff in here. This is one of those things that realistically password managers could be an entire hour. We know that because we've done an entire hour on password managers in a different webinar, but there are a bunch of resources about picking different password managers on consumerreports.org, and also some sort of FAQs about, well, wait, hold on a second, if I put all my passwords in the same place and those are breached, why would that not be a essentially, password managers we think are much more secure than the previous options of writing down all your passwords in a Word file somewhere and saving them. Okay, I've got our first acronym alert, Yael. So what is a VPN?
A VPN is actually, this is a great cue for our next slide. A VPN is a virtual private network. And what it
Should we
does
go ahead and jump there?
Yes, let's jump to the
let's define it first and then we'll jump there.
Yeah, no, a VPN is a virtual private network. So what it does is it provides a connection to the site that you're going through, like kind of like an encrypted tunnel. And so That is what a VPN does. A lot of people hear ads online thinking they can solve all of their security risks by using a VPN. And so in the poll, we're going to ask people, what do you think that a VPN can't do? Is it
Which of the
that,
following?
yes,
Go ahead.
which is not true. Does a VPN prevent your network or internet service provider from learning certain things about your behavior? Can it, does a VPN fool an app or service into thinking you're connected from somewhere else? Can it protect your machine from malware or viruses? And can it help you view content that might otherwise be blocked by your network? So which of these is not true is the question.
Interesting. Lots of people weighing in. And unlike previous polls, unlike our second poll, there's no clear out and out winner here.
Right, we're getting a lot of a VPN cannot protect your machine from malware and viruses, and also VPN cannot help you view content that might otherwise be blocked by your network.
I like that. Debbie says, oops, I submitted what it could do. Don't worry, you're not being graded. There's no final score here.
We'll have to reword it. All right.
All right, let's go ahead and if you have not weighed in yet, that's okay. And we can go ahead and end this, Sam, and share back the results. It looks like we have sort of a pretty even split, although the number one answer, VPNs can help you view content that may otherwise be blocked by your network. That's actually a thing that VPNs can do. The correct answer, VPNs cannot protect your machine from malware or viruses. So maybe this is a moment, Yael, to go back again to sort of like, what does a VPN actually do such that it allows it to do the other three things that we had up there on the
right. Yeah, no,
slide.
a VPN creates an encrypted connection between your device and a remote server. So it can communicates with the internet on your behalf, but it's not kind of a cure-all. It doesn't protect your data from third parties necessarily, especially if somebody else owns your device. And it certainly doesn't protect you from malware or viruses. And so like, that's something to note. So when we go back to our advice for Maya, we actually have a copy of her plan, but using a VPN is not the top tip we'd have for her. There's a lot of other things we would prioritize that we've actually kind of touched on: using a password manager, setting up multi-factor authentication. Since she is using a lot of smart devices, we would have her secure the smart speaker and other devices, which a lot of that is making sure that she has a unique password for those devices and MFA when available for those devices. We would also tell her to delete old accounts that she's not using, which is something somebody already brought up in the chat for another one of these case studies. There's a lot more information in Security Planner, so this is just a start. She can encrypt her hard drive, she can back up her data, she can make sure all of her devices are up to date and do security checks on her main accounts. So the cool thing about saving a plan in Security Planner is you can go back and just do a little bit at a time, because it does take some upfront time, but it will save you time later, I think, by preventing a lot of these security issues that come up.
Yeah, setting up a password manager, for example, does take a little bit of mental time and energy to kind of start to corral all of your different passwords into one place. It can feel like a high upfront cost. It's worth it. Trust me, as someone who used to write scraps of, literally have a series of scraps of paper strewn across a desk with different passwords scrawled upon them. A password manager has made my life significantly more coherent. We're going to get to a couple of questions here. What do you mean by securing one smart speaker? How do you even think about securing your smart devices? But I just want to also mention here that we did say up front that Maya has 2 kids. And one thing that is very important about a lot of these activities is we're sort of talking about some basic peace of mind things that Maya can do to shore up her digital self. But those things are all very much applicable to Maya's kids as well. Going back and deleting accounts that are no longer things that they use, helping kids figure out how to log into the many devices that they have going. More especially if, let's say, Maya's kids are 8 and 10 or 8 and 12. There are a whole slew of devices that those kids may be bringing into her life that also are smart in different ways, shapes, and forms. So a lot of this stuff not only includes Maya's reality, but maybe she could run her kids through Security Planner as well to come up with a plan of action for them.
Let's see, there's some questions in the chat that are pretty
lot of good
interesting.
ones.
One of them was like, how do you actually secure your smart speaker? And we have a page on that. It takes you through, changing your passwords, setting up multi-factor authentication, make sure that the updates are downloaded if they don't update automatically. You can check your privacy settings, sometimes even delete information that they already have. And so we do have a page on that. We have
Lots
somebody.
of good suggestions in the chat.
Yes, let's see. Why don't we have an option for Linux? So we found that a lot of very, very, very few people log on to Security Planner from Linux. So that's why we don't actually have that set up yet. This is kind of like a broad resource. And so that's, there's definitely people, we definitely have people, like if people have specific questions about what they should use, it's definitely something we could look into.
Nancy asks, how do I get one password manager for diverse devices? That's the kind of thing that many of the sort of paid tier of password managers do, like Password Keeper or LastPass. Some love for LastPass in the chat as well. So those are, they have both app settings and browser settings, and they can sort of move across devices in a lot of different instances. And again, we do have a sort of review and ranking. We don't necessarily recommend a particular one out of the category as much as we definitively recommend the category. We're all about the category.
So actually, we do recommend one password in Security Planner. And people are talking about the LastPass hack. There's definitely not one size fits all, which is why we do test them, and one password is consistently done well.
Someone asked, as sort of part of the VPN question, would I benefit from a VPN? We don't know, but Security Planner might. So we would urge you to go through Security Planner, tell them how you use the internet, and they might be able to help you to answer that question.
Yeah, we actually have an article that I know we're really short on time, but I can send it in the follow-up email. We have an article about whether or not you need a VPN in Consumer Reports. Let's see, someone asked.
We are out of time. So let's go ahead, and we've got as many questions as we can. I'm just going to do a really quick wrap up, and then we will stay on for one more second while everyone tries to orient themselves and grab things. But a couple of things. Don't be one and done. Use Security Planner once and then come back to it. Use it multiple times. The tool is a checklist, like it says on the screen. It will give you a unique link. You can come back to it. You can do the first action right up top. That is the thing that it recommends, and then you can come back and use it over time. Report back to us. Tell us how it's all gone. We're going to drop if we did not manage to get your questions or concerns, you can either write to me at community@cr.consumer.org, which is the email address that we will be checking. It's also the email address that we sent the reminders to. So if you need to just reply to that reminder, that will also come to me. So we can go through that way. We will be, of course, packaging all of these things up, including the link and the video of everything here. So if you join late, don't worry, we'll be sending you the entire recorded video. Usually it takes me about 24 hours to get that all together and back out to you. So we really appreciate you all. And then the last thing I will say, a final thought is, as Justin was alluding to, we are at Consumer Reports working to make sure that everybody has the sort of consumer rights to data privacy and protection across the board. So I'm going to drop one final last link into this chat here, which is a way for you to be a part of something we have upcoming, which is our sort of our data action day, a way for us to learn together about how to, it's going to be a boot camp from now until January, learning about how to protect yourself online. And then we're all going to be taking action together to make sure that more people have the rights that that we've already kind of fought for and won in a few states around the country. I think, Yael, do you have a last thought before we all get out of here?
No, this is great. Thank you everyone so much for coming. And yeah, please check out securityplanner.org.
And thank you for Common Sense Media for joining us on this. We really appreciate y'all and excited to work with you.
Great. Thanks for having us.